In this tutorial series, we're going to show you how to create a zombie-infested urban environment in Unity 2018.3. This is Al over at GameDevHQ.com. Like and subscribe today. Check out our other amazing tutorials on this site and log on to GameDevHQ.com and discover all the amazing things we offer to help you become an amazing game developer. We will focus this series on building a simple urban environment using assets from GameDevHQ's file base. We should be able to knock out a majority of this scene in about 20 minutes, leaving lighting and post-processing in future tutorials. So, just a heads up warning, all the assets that we're going to be using today are available on our file base at GameDevHQ. So if you would like, you are more than welcome to go over, sign up to become a pro member, and you get access to all the assets. So each one of these assets have been brought into our game. All you have to do is just download the package from GameDevHQ's website, drag it into this particular scene, and all your assets will load in dynamically. And they'll get logged into the correct location, and then you just click import and you're all done. I've imported all of the assets that I need for this particular game, and just to let you know, this is a small fraction of the assets available on Filebase, and it's a good thing because you really don't need a whole lot of assets to build your entire scene. I think in here we're using a total of 11 assets to build this scene. So yeah, I mean, a little bit goes a long way when it comes to building game environments. So what do we have in our scene currently? We have our main camera, we have a directional light, we're using the lightweight rendering pipeline, which can be done when you click a new scene. All you have to do is, instead of choosing 3D, choose lightweight. And I also added in a cube, a default cube in the center, so I can get a sense of scale for this particular scene. So I'm going to start off by going into my road, and inside my road I have some prefabs in here, and I am just going to be using this straight road right here. So I'm going to grab that, drop it into my scene, and I'm going to create kind of this alleyway out of it. Now you can this thing is 400 units long, and you could try to kind of move it to where you think it should go. A tip that you guys can use, though, to help you quickly build scenes and make sure that it's accurate, is using the snap feature. So with your Prefab Roads selected, if you hold the V button down, you'll see that my arrow that I use is connecting to different vertices on this 3D object. So what I can do is just duplicate this road, and then if I hold the V on here, and let me just kind of center this up a little bit more, I can grab this area and connect this via a snap, and now it's perfectly aligned. So I'm going to do this for a couple of these. I'm going to grab another road, make sure I click into the window, and I'm going to grab another road from there, and I'm going to make sure I find the edge to it, and I'm going to snap it over to that edge, and then I'm going to grab the final road, and let me just move this out of the way a little bit, grab it, connect to the edge, and now I snap together 5 roads in a row. Say that 5 times fast. And then from here, right now this is currently still dynamic, so I'm going to create an empty game object, and I'm going to call these static elements. And these are all the elements in my scene that I'm going to turn static. And when I do that, the scene is going to bake the light maps of this geometry, so we're not rendering it in real time. So I'm just going to take these roads, I'm going to drop these into here, and I'm also going to put these into a road, a game object called road. So let me make sure, actually, probably a good practice is make sure that you always reset these so they go 0, 0, 0. And then in here I'm going to call this road, And I'm going to grab these elements, and I'm going to drop these into the road, and I'm going to drop this in the static elements. And from here, I'm just going to check static. And then it's going to say, do you want to do this to all the children? Hit yes. And down here, it's going to start baking out our scene. And when it does that, it's going to take in the light data from our environment and bake that out into our texture. So if we say change the intensity down to, let's say, 1, now you see that it's baking out what this intensity should look like at a 1 versus a 2. So with that done, I'm just going to take this cube and I'm going to delete this now. And I'm going to start adding more to my static road, or my static environment. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to my house, and I'm going to go into my FBX, and I'm going to just drop this in here. And I'm going to reset my position at 0, 0, 0, and I'm going to shrink this down. And I should probably just convert this into a prefab. I think I did that for the asset itself. But yes, I'm just going to grab that down, drag that in here, and I'm going to create a folder called prefab. And drop my house into here as a prefab. So if I do happen to adjust this house, it will adjust all the other houses the same way. And I'm going to go to my side view, and I'm going to bring my house up just a little bit. And I'm going to snap it back close to the edge of the alleyway. So that way there's a little roadway right here. And then I'm just going to start duplicating these next to each other. Perfect. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to select a couple here and there. And I currently have the outline wire turned off, but I'll turn that on so you guys can see it. And I'm just going to do some slight adjustments to the depth. Nothing too major. This is all going to be background-ish, but it's just nice to have some alterations. And then I'm going to grab all these elements, and inside my static elements, I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call this house. I'm going to reset, and I'm going to drop the house into my static elements. I'll drop these houses in here, and then I'll turn this off, change yes to children, and then I'll turn it all back on. So now all the flags in this area are marked static. And it says right here, 5 minutes bake, but this will go down very quickly. And you see how like the shadows are now baking into the environments and everything like that. And it looks really good. So this probably takes, it said 5 minutes. It probably took about 15 seconds in all honesty. All right, so now we got that environment done. Next, I want to go into the electric poles, and I'm going to go to my prefab, and I'm just going to go ahead and grab these poles and set these into the center of the scene. And I'm going to increase the height of these, and these are going to go in front of our cameras. And I'm going to set these, let's say right here, and I'm going to move this all the way to the edge of our scene. Then I'm going to duplicate it and move it on down so that the wires connect. And here I don't really use the snapping just because it may jump around a little bit. This is more of a visual kind of guesstimation here. And I think that looks pretty good. I'm going to duplicate that again. I'm going to go ahead and drag that back right there, and I'm going to duplicate this the 4th time. And set that right here. And I'm going to hold off on turning these static, but I'm going to group them. So we're going to call this telephone poles, or they're electric poles. You could be either one. And I'm just going to drop this into static elements. They're not static at this point in time, but I'm just going to keep them in that area right there. Next, I'm going to go ahead and grab a street light, and I'm going to go into my prefab. I'm going to grab that street light and drop this into the scene. And we're going to shrink this down, and we're going to rotate. And if you don't know, there's a cool little trick. If you try to do this rotation, you see how you get those specific numbers? It goes into like float values. If you hold the command key, it goes in increments of 15 degrees, which is kind of nice. So I could set this at a 90-degree angle. And then I'm going to go to my overhead view, and I'm going to place this pretty close to the edge of the road without actually going into the gutter area. And if I press F, it will focus, which is what the F stands for, back on my object. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and the reason why I got rid of the outline is it's hard to tell sometimes if you're intersecting inside of a game object. So I'm just going to set this right around here. And now I know it's sitting nicely and well on the sidewalk. And then I'm going to go to my overhead view, and I'm just going to duplicate this light a couple times. Let me make sure that's even. And then I'm going to go back to my perspective view, and now we can see all the lights going down the street at this point. And then from here, I'm going to go ahead and create our street light. And I'm going to drop these assets, these prefabs, into static elements. And I'm going to leave that right there. Then I want to go into setting up our barbed wire fence. So I go ahead and go to my prefab of my fence, and I'm just going to use this fence corner piece right here. And it looks just like a regular barbed wire fence. And I'm going to use this as my start of my barricade of where the player will be able to go inside this scene. So I'm going to take this particular fence and I'm going to drag it all the way over here to the edge. But I don't want to go all the way past because I'm going to have my camera moving across this edge. So I kind of want to stay inside a little bit. I'm going to set it probably right around here. And I want to make sure that this fence doesn't look too gigantic. So I'm going to set this, let's say right here. And then I'm going to duplicate it. And I'm going to move it down here, but I'm going to use my vertex tip to connect it. And then that way I can do a quick rotation, connect it at the edge, duplicate that fence again. And let's say I'm going to do another slight curve adjustment, go back to my move mode, click my vertex, and connect those edges of that fence again. So very quickly I'm able to create this kind of barrier that runs across this edge of the screen. And then I'm going to take these three and I'm going to duplicate this. I want to make sure that I leave some space for my camera so I don't run off the screen. So I'm going to encapsulate you in this area. But I still have some room at the edge so you don't see the end of the level. And then I'm going to take these and I'm going to go to my rotate tool. Perfect. That's all done. And then I'll create another fence. And I'm going to drag these assets inside of our fence object. Oops. Let me make sure that I set this to 0. Drag that in. And I'm going to drag this into static elements. From here, I'm going to go into my barricade. I'm going to grab my barricade prefab, drop this into my scene. And this thing is gigantic, so we're going to adjust the size of this. And these stone barricades are going to go in front of this fence. So let's get a good scale of what this would be size-wise. So this would sit a little higher and at an angle. I'm going to set this right here. I'm going to set this particular barricade right there. And cool. So that's 6 barriers on that side, right? And I'm going to take these same 6 and I'm just going to move it over to the other side. And then we'll do a rotation. Very cool. And then I think I just have to rotate this one this direction to kind of seal off this edge of the screen. And then I'm going to also create a new barricade, grab these assets, drop them in, and drop them into static elements. Very cool. And then I'm going to take this same barricade, so I'm going to take this one right here, and I'm going to just duplicate these all on the bottom of our screen. And this is going to kind of signify the edge of our game level. So I'm going to select these two, duplicate those, and I'm actually just going to start snapping it to the bottom all the way across. So grab, snap, duplicate, grab, snap, duplicate, grab, oops, grab, snap. So we are all set there. Perfect. So there's our barricade. Next, I'm going to go into my dumpster, and I'm going to add a couple dumpsters into this scene. The first one, I'm going to go into my prefab, drop this in. I'm going to shrink this down a little bit. And these are great to have because you could actually have zombies coming out from behind these dumpsters. So they're a great spawn point to actually have. I'm going to set this one, let's say right over here. I'm going to take a second one, drop it right down in this area. And I'm going to angle this slightly so the player can't see behind this particular dumpster. And I'm going to go ahead and grab a third one, drop it onto this edge of the screen, which is very cool. I'm going to grab a fourth one, drop it over here, and the zombie will probably spawn right over here. And then we can possibly drop a fifth one and just have a spawn point right there. And then we're going to do the exact same thing. Dumpster. Reset. Drop these in and drop this into a static as a static element. Then we got the house, the road, the rubble, the streetlights, the trash bags, and the wrecked SUVs. So I think we got the rubble and trash bags and wrecked SUVs. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my trash bags, go to prefab, drop this in here. Now this is only one model of the trash bag. We got several that we can incorporate into our scene. But this one, you know, sometimes you only really need one unless you're going for something really cool looking, or it has to be very unique in every shot. Then you may want to add an additional couple more. But yeah, so I'm going to just duplicate these trash bags all throughout our scene. And there you go. Very cool. Nice and clean. All right. Next thing is we're going to add a couple wrecked SUVs into our shot. So I'm going to take this SUV, I'm going to shrink it down a little bit, and I'm just going to add a couple here. So I want to take this and maybe flip it on its side. Bring it slightly higher. And I think I actually added these behind the fence. So it's kind of like that extra detail that you usually don't see. So as you're coming toward the edge of the screen, it stops, let's say right here, and you still see that there's more disaster that occurred over there. I'm just going to grab this same SUV. Let's flip it sideways. And let's see, bring it down. Make sure that the wheels connect to the ground. And we'll stick this one, let's say right there. And then I'll take this third one and I'll zero out the rotation. 0, -90, 0. And we'll add this one, let's say right over here. And we'll bring it slightly higher so it doesn't look bizarre. And I may even take another one of these dumpsters and stick this right over here. So now there's a reason why it's wrecked. Perfect. And I'm going to create SUV, reset. And then I also want to add in some rubble. So I'm going to go to my prefab, grab some rubble, and we're just going to shrink this down. I'll set this here, and let's set it over here. Drop this into here, and I also want to add in my military crate. And this military crate is going to be used, and this is going to be more dynamic, so it won't go into this static elements area. The static elements are only for background elements, but I'm going to have 2 ammunition points. So I'll set this first one over on the side over here. Let's say in this location. And then I'm going to take this and add a second ammo location on this side. Perfect. And this ammo crate's going to be great because someone's going to be able to come up to it and click a button and go ahead and grab your stuff, and then it'll close again. So we'll do something really cool animation-wise for that. And yeah, now that all that's done, go ahead and click the static elements, unclick this so everything turns dynamic, and then hit the static again. And now it's going to go through and turn all of these assets into static elements, and it's going to bake all the light information onto them. And in doing that, we're going to get some awesome looking effects. We're going to get the nice lighting from and shadows from everything, it's going to look quite fantastic. I'm going to love this. So let's check this out and see how this looks. All right. So that's the end of the bake right there. I think it took maybe 15 seconds to do, 20 seconds to do, but here's our entire scene light mapped in bake, and this is going to be our level. This is very Last of Us-ish. This is very Dying Light-ish, which is pretty sweet because those are some of the best freaking games out there. So yeah, we've got our level pretty much set up at this point. So in the next tutorial, we'll probably jump into lighting and atmosphere and post-processing effects, and this whole thing should pretty much be set in just a couple clicks. I hope you guys dig this and you guys see how quick and how efficiently we can build an entire game level with just a couple assets from Filebase. So please come back and check us out next week. And a special thank you to all the Plus and Pro members out there. Your support makes this channel possible, and we couldn't do it without you, so thank you again. And if you are not a member yet, sign up for a free account over at GameDevHQ.com. We also offer Plus and Pro memberships, which directly support this channel and allows us to build amazing content to help you guys become amazing game developers. The Plus membership, among other things, gives you a unique monthly loot crate to help you build your game levels and access to Plus challenges to help grow your C# skills. The Pro membership gives you access to over 130 game assets, which are ready to go inside of Unity, and unlimited streaming access to all of our paid courses. This is Al. We're Game Dev HQ. I'm out of here. Thank you again for tuning in. I'll see you next week.